Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Training Intelligence podcast with myself, Ben, and my lovely co-host, Tom. Now, we're going to get straight into it, Tom, because this is going to be an episode we're going to bust 10 of the top fitness and health myths. First of all, I do have to say, how are you? Are you good?
I am
I have
good,
to.
thanks,
I just
mate.
have to.
Although I've mentioned this before, but I'm mildly concerned that your sting blade has just started glowing blue for no apparent reason in the background.
Oh, dear.
We best make this quick before any orcs
Let's
jump in through your door.
hopefully not a cave troll. Okay, so as I said in this episode, first of all, let's just get into this. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. Please share this with people who you think might benefit from this. If you want to bust some of these myths, or you've maybe heard some of these myths talked about, share it with someone who maybe would benefit from it. So let's get into it. Tom, the first one. Now, we're also going to be introducing a timer here because we want to make this quick. We're going to have a 3-minute timer. If you're watching this, you'll see it's a 3-minute timer. Hopefully it's not reversed like it is in my screen, but anyway, we can see it. Tom, 3 minutes. As soon as I finish reading the question, lifting weights doesn't make
we
you.
need a forfeit if we don't manage the 3 minutes. And it's
yeah, that's the spirit. There we go. It's appeared. Okay, what's the forfeit? What's the forfeit?
I think it should be very doable to do all these within 3 minutes. So
I think so.
How about if you don't do it, you have to hold a squat, a wall sit, or a split squat ISO hold for the whole of the next question, or the whole of the next answer.
Okay. Yeah. I could do that. Okay. We won't have to do that though. We've got this. Okay. So question number one, we're going to alternate between each other. So the first question is, lifting weights makes you bulky. Sorry. I'll say that with proper English. Lifting weights make you bulky. Myth number one. Let's go.
Okay. So it's just not true. Done.
Yeah.
I think it was 10 seconds.
Yep.
No, I think it's obviously something that a lot of people they worry about that when they start lifting weights. But if you look at all of the people out there who are trying to get as big as possible, most of them are not actually achieving that. And if they are, they're achieving it very, very slowly over a very long period of time. You're not going to just start lifting weights one day and then wake up the next day like absolutely hench and jacked. It just doesn't happen. I think probably part of where this comes from is it depends a bit what training you were doing prior to lifting weights. Because obviously if you go from doing loads and loads of cardio, for example, and then you stop doing all of that and you just start lifting weights, your caloric expenditure from training is going to drop a little bit. So if you don't then start eating a little bit less, like you probably will end up putting on a little bit of weight as a result of doing less, like burning less calories, but maintaining the amount that you're eating. So that is something that plays a part in it. Also, one thing that does happen very acutely when you start lifting weights is, as we've spoken about before, the fuel in your muscles is called glycogen. For every gram of glycogen that you take into your muscle tissue, you take in 3 grams of water as well. And when you start lifting weights initially, you probably will have a little bit more uptake of glycogen into your muscle tissue that you've got. So in the very short term, sometimes you might and I'm talking like the first couple of sessions that you do, you may end up feeling like you've kind of bulked up in the very short term, but it's purely because your body is trying to fuel itself better. Building muscle tissue takes a long, long time. And by starting to lift weights, you are not going to immediately get bulky. So you don't need to worry about that.
Smashed it. There we go, with 36 seconds left. Excellent. Yeah, the only thing I would add to that is that a lot of women typically find that's the concern a lot of women have, because they typically see men training and they think, oh, I don't want to look like that. Newsflash, you're not a man. it's going to be very difficult for a woman to put anywhere near the amount of muscle tissue that a man, like the average man, can. So yeah, it's not something that you should be overly concerned about if you are going into the gym. It will not make you bulky. The only way you'll become bulky is if you're trying, really, really trying to become bulky, as you had said earlier. But even then, the people who are trying their best are still not even close to where they want to be. You speak to any bodybuilder in the gym, be like, "Are you as big as you want to be?" And they're probably like, "No, I want to improve in this
Yeah.
size and this and this." Okay, so smash that. No wall sits for you. Well done. On to the next one.
Excellent.
I'll reset the timer. Okay.
Okay.
As soon as you finished.
Right, Ben. Can
Ah,
you spot reduce body fat? As in, can you pick where you want to lose body fat from?
okay. So the analogy I like to use in this situation is the swimming pool analogy. So I want you to imagine a swimming pool. And if you got a straw and you placed your straw in the very, very corner of that swimming pool and then started to drink that straw or from the straw, you understand that the entire level of that water is going to drop. It's not that one area that you put the straw into. That's pretty much how the body works. Our bodies, some people obviously have predispositions to where they'll lose fat from, and also in the same note is where they will store fat. So typically women are going to store fat around the hips and the glutes, which is called gyno obesity, and men are typically going to store it around the kind of abdomen area, around the stomach, and that's called andro obesity. But in terms of spot reducing fat, it's there now. There has been some studies that have shown that if you target a certain area, there's a small percentage of fat that's mobilized from that area, but it's not enough to really warrant training that one area. Like for example, people doing millions upon millions of crunches, thinking this is going to get rid of my belly fat. It's not. You'll have a really strong core. That's great, but you will probably not mobilize any more fat than you would if you were just doing everything else normally. So spot reducing fat is unfortunately something you can't really do. And again, it's just because of the way the body works. So yeah, that's a pretty quick one actually. Spot reducing fat, it's a bit of a myth. Yes, there's some elements to it where you can have a very, 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 and I'm going to insert a million more varies, minor impact on that area, but it's not worth the effort for you to be doing that. So again, I like to use the backs of the arms, or triceps. A lot of people will be worried about the backs of their arms or their bingo wings. Training your triceps to try and elicit a little bit more fat loss in there, that's not why you should be doing it. You should be doing it to strengthen up your triceps. But yeah, I don't think spot reduction of fat is not something we have the ability to do, unfortunately, for a
Yeah.
lot of people, because that is the unfortunate thing. Anything else to add? I'll
Two
get that
things.
one.
So, firstly, when you first start dropping body fat, you'll probably notice it go from areas that you maybe don't want to lose it from, or you don't feel like you've got lots of body fat to lose. Like when
Mm-hmm.
people have been on a diet, like in the short term, quite a lot of people like their face, like you lose a lot around your face, you maybe lose a bit around your arms and around your legs. After being at a slightly low body fat percentage for a period of time, your body will redistribute the body fat. So it's yeah, just the only thing you can like you really need to focus on it is getting into a calorie deficit and doing that consistently, and your body will take care of the rest. And unfortunately, like you said, there's no way to specifically target an area to have a more than a negligible effect on that. And the other thing I want to add as well is just to say that um, actually having like you can't spot reduce body fat, but having a little bit more muscle mass in certain areas, you probably will look a bit leaner if you
Yep.
have if you have more muscle tissue. So for example, if you wanted to spot reduce in a specific area, actually focusing on building like doing a little bit more volume on that area from a training perspective may be beneficial from an aesthetic perspective, because you've got more muscle tissue there, which will like it'll basically it'll mask some of the body fat to a certain extent. If does
Yep.
that make sense?
Yeah. No, no, that makes 100% sense. Yeah, that's a fantastic point as well. Like at the end of the day, you're probably trying to reduce the body fat to increase the aesthetic appearance of that area. And if you've got more muscle tissue in that area, it's going to probably get that look that you want that little bit faster. So if you're going to train an area because you're worried about the body fat around that area, train it because of that, not to try and get rid of the more fat. It's just whenever that fat does eventually kind of subside or reduce, it's going to see some sexy shit underneath it, which is nice.
But
Okay.
like to kind of illustrate that point, if you're say you're 100 kilos and you're at 20% body fat, or you're 80 kilos and you're at 20% body fat, if each of those people go to 10% body fat, the person who was heavier to start with will most likely, quote unquote, look better
Yeah.
because they've got more muscle tissue to start with. So at 10%, they'll probably look more lean than someone who had less
Yes.
muscle tissue. That was the point I
Yes.
was trying to make.
Yes. No, that's fantastic. Okay. Number three.
No. Oh, yeah. Number three.
Yeah,
I thought
yeah,
we were
yeah.
number four.
So let's just address the rules here. We're doing it. The 3 minutes is on the person. So right now the 3 minutes is on Tom. But as soon as Tom is like, yeah, I'm done now, I'm stopping the timer.
Okay.
So there's no structure to this. We're winging this as best we possibly can. You
There's
came
loads
here
of
for the
structure.
yeah. We you came for the professionalism that comes with this podcast. Okay. So number three, cardio is the only way to lose weight. Bust it.
Okay. So in terms of losing weight and more specifically losing body fat, because that is what most people want to do, you if you look at um, things as a whole, we've got our calories in and our calories out. To drop body weight, we need to be in a calorie deficit, which means that our calories in needs to be lower than our calories out. So there's multiple things that we can look to control within that. So our calories in is going to be taken care of by our training, which is going to be a relatively small amount.
Mhm.
No, sorry, I'm getting this the wrong way around. Calories in is basically everything that goes in your mouth.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Calories out is going to be your training, which is going to be a relatively small amount. Your non-exercise activity, which is like your number of steps. Your basal
Jogging.
metabolic rate, which is the amount of calories that your body needs just to function. Um, and then the thermic effect of food, which the more food you eat, the higher that's going to be. It's basically the amount of energy your body takes to burn off food. It's kind of in your control, but it's kind of negligible and not really worth worrying about.
Mhm.
So like the main things within our control are our non-exercise activity, so the amount of activity we're doing outside of training, obviously our training activity, but for most people that's going to be a relatively small amount, or the calories that we're taking in. So those are the three things that really are in our control to manipulate. And using cardio to help you lose weight can can it can work,
Yep.
but it's probably much easier for most people to reduce what they eat by 500 calories rather than try and burn 500 calories by doing a load of CV work.
Yep.
It's just it, that'll be quite hard, quite a long session for you to do. And yeah, it's all going to help, but actually focusing on your non-exercise activity and like the kind of if you do about 10,000 steps, that's probably going to be an extra 500 calories expenditure, roughly.
Mhm.
Obviously, going to vary person to person, etc., etc. But yeah, that's going to be an easier way to burn an extra 500 calories than doing 500 calories worth of cardio. So yeah. Oh,
Smashed it.
33 seconds left.
There we
I think
go.
that's. I think I said everything that I wanted to there. Have you got anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you got everything there. I think, whilst yes, cardio can be a way to potentially aid fat loss, it's not why you should be doing it.
Yeah.
If you're doing cardio, do it for the reason that it's there for, which is to improve your cardiovascular fitness and all the myriad of other benefits that cardio has for you. I always like to say it's like I could use one of my Warhammer models, one of the bigger ones, obviously, as a doorstop. Yeah, I could do it. No, I could use it for that purpose, but it's not its main purpose. Kind of similar with cardio, as a fat loss tool. It's not its main purpose, and it shouldn't be the main reason why you're including something into your training. Okay,
Yep.
so question number
Question.
4 now.
Okay.
Okay, you ready?
This is more of a quote than a question.
Hmm.
Hey
I'm ready.
Ben, what would you say if I said no pain, no gain?
Oh, it sounds good, doesn't it? It really does
Yeah,
sound good.
sounds so good.
I think look, I understand the principle of this, and I believe it was Arnold that has kind of really popularized this phrase. And I think what Arnold was trying to say was without discomfort, there's no reason for changes to occur, or without any challenge, there's no reason for change. I think that's a better one to put into context. But if you're in pain, and I mean actual pain in the gym, stop what you're doing immediately. The gym should not cause you pain. It should cause you, at the upper end, discomfort. Very, and again, without trying to sound extreme, but extreme discomfort. There's some sets and some sessions and some reps that I'd rather not be doing it. But pain, we all know the difference between pain and discomfort. Discomfort is something we're like, oh, that doesn't feel great. Whereas pain is like, that needs to stop immediately. There's a big difference. And I think, yeah, that whole phrase, it rolls off the tongue extremely well. And that's why it's probably quoted so much and it's kind of misunderstood. But I think you scratch under the surface of it, there is some meaning to it that I think you can take from it. But I would say without challenge, there's no reason for change, because if your body is not being pushed beyond its capacity, your body has absolutely no reason to adapt. If you do the same thing over and over again every single day, what would you learn? If you read the same page of a book every single day, are you learning anything new? No. So nothing's going to change. So I think the whole pain no gain thing, again, it sounds great. But yeah, it's nonsense. You do not need to be in pain to make progress in the gym. You should be under levels of discomfort. And again, one thing I really like is that most of the time people don't make progress in the gym, not because of their lack of hard work. It's the fact that they're probably not exposed to what hard work actually looks like and what is actually required to build muscle tissue. People will go, oh, I did the 10 reps. And I'm like, cool. But were those reps actually beneficial to what you're trying to do? Another one that, that does actually make more sense is, make the reps count. Just don't just count reps, or, but I messed that one up. But you know what I mean? Make the reps count rather than just counting them, because, someone could go in and go, oh, I did 10 reps. And you're like, yeah, but were those 10 reps efficient for what, or, effective for what we're trying to achieve here? Were they a challenge? Like, was the first rep and the last rep, did they look exactly the same? Did they require the same amount of energy? If they did, I'm sorry, but those 10 reps weren't really doing much for you, or they're not doing what you would want them to do. So yeah, no pain, no gain. We can bust that one. It's not the best thing to be going into the gym with that mindset. Anything else to add? With oh my word, that was the longest
Oh,
one.
that was close.
1 second.
Ooh.
Oh, nice little tune. Listen, can you hear that?
You win
I've
a
never heard that.
prize. Congratulations, Ben.
Thank you. I've never heard that. That's amazing. Okay. Anything to add to that?
No, just to reiterate the point that you said about pushing a muscle close to muscular failure, where you're not able to actually do another rep, or like you're getting close to that point, that is going to be uncomfortable.
Yep.
But that is different from something being actually sore and painful. And I think most people should know the difference between that.
Yep.
Yeah, you shouldn't be going in and things are really sore all of the time. And as you were saying about sort of making the reps count, a rep is basically just us trying to quantify the work that we're doing in the gym. So actually standardizing that as much as possible, going through the same range of motion on each rep, and making sure they're as consistent, as consistent as possible, is our best way to quantify the work that we're doing. So it's like a rep in itself is kind of meaningless. It's like we're just using it to try and quantify what we're doing essentially. So yeah, making sure you are pushing, if your goal is building muscle tissue, you are going to need to be in some discomfort, but quite a lot of your working sets, and push those sets hard. But that doesn't mean pain.
Pain. Yeah, it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be pain. Okay. So next one up is the timer. Yes, the timer is good to go. Okay. Do you need to work out sorry, no, let me rephrase that. You need to work out every single day. We're busting this. We're not asking questions. Let's go.
Okay. So depends very much what your goal is, the time that you have available, and your life constraints as to how much training you should probably be doing. But if we frame things from a building muscle perspective, training a muscle group twice a week, maybe 3 times a week at the absolute most, is probably like it is the upper limit of what you want to be doing. Because if you're training a muscle more often than that, basically every session you'll be going into with some fatigue in that muscle,
Mm-hmm.
which means that actually you like the intensity that you'll be able to lift with and the volume that you'll be able to accumulate is going to be less than if you were training it less often and pushing those sets harder and making those sets that you're doing better quality sets. So
Mm-hmm.
actually, like if you're looking at it from that perspective, for most people, like somewhere between 2 and 4 times a week, if you're trying to build muscle tissue, is probably going to be a really good place to be. You might push that up a little bit depending on, like I said, the time you've got available. Obviously, like professional bodybuilders going to like do a lot more than that, but for most people, 2 to 4 times a week is going to give you a very solid stimulus from the training that you're doing to be able to make great progress, but also train and not take over your life, which is essential for a lot of people. So yeah, you absolutely don't need to be training every single day. Yeah, I think that's all I've got to say there. Do you have anything to add?
You kind of, I'm just going to repeat what you just said there. Professional bodybuilders are probably the only people that need to really be concerned about the amount they're training. Like regular people, like unless you're professional bodybuilders, which I highly doubt any professional bodybuilders are listening to this podcast. So I'm speaking to the listener. You're probably not a professional bodybuilder. You're trying to fit this into your life. You're not trying to fit your life around training. The fact that you're getting to the gym at all is fantastic. Okay. That it's a pretty low bar when it comes to physical activity. Let's be honest. Like the general population is not in all likelihood going to the gym more than twice a week. In fact, I saw a statistic the other day that it was like from a gym. Basically the gym can obviously track how many times people visit the gym. And I think only about 21% or 22% of people who had a gym membership went once a week. Like, which is, so if you're going twice a week, you're in a pretty good spot. So as Tom said there, that you've got to consider your ability to recover as well. You know, that's one of the things that I just don't think is talked about enough in this space is you're only able to adapt to what you can recover from. And in layman's terms is you can have all the output in the world, but if you cannot recover, if you're not getting good sleep, you're not getting good nutrition, you're not reducing the stresses in your life, you're not going to make progress. You're just digging a hole and never actually filling it in. So training every day is not something you need to be doing. In fact, if you are training every day, you might benefit from stepping back and actually adding some more recovery days in there to make progress.
Yeah.
Okay.
Agreed. Cool.
Reset. I just
Question
realized that.
number 6.
I'm sorry, I just need to reset the timer. There we go. Okay. Ready? What is it?
Stretching before exercise prevents injury. Tell me about that, Ben.
I've already started the timer, but anyway. So stretching before activity is something that I mean, I don't know about you, but like PE and sports back in the day in school, like they would make us do
Yeah.
static stretches, this whole like tricep thing. The only time I ever see anyone doing this is in a photo shoot for fitness. When was the last time, when was the last time you actually did this tricep stretch, this whole thing? I can't remember the last time I did, but we would do that all the time before we played rugby. So if you're getting ready for movement, it's probably best you get ready for movement by doing movement. Like holding a static stretch is not getting you ready for movement at all. It's literally in the name. Static means non-movement. If you're going to be moving, it's probably best to warm up by moving. So whenever it comes to warming up, I'll kind of tie something else into this. If you're warming up for a session, it's the easiest way to think about it is whatever exercise you're doing, let's say it's a squat. The best way to warm up for a squat, typically speaking, again, taking, injuries and anything like that pre-existing, just the standard person with no injuries, the best way to warm up for a squat is to squat and then build the weight up as you get up to the working weight. That's the best way of doing it. If you have got individual injuries or anything you have to deal with, then take time to do that. But static stretching is probably not going to reduce injuries at all. In fact, it might actually encourage injuries. And I'm sure there's studies out there that have proven that, but yeah, if you're getting ready to move, get ready by moving. Simple as that. Anything to add to that?
Just that, like, if you look at sort of what's actually causing an injury, for the most part, it's going to be overdoing what you're actually doing from a training perspective, either like lifting, like pushing slightly outside of your capability and your tolerance when you're lifting, although that is like probably a relatively small amount, or an overuse injury. Those are like probably the two most common ways that you're going to injure yourself. And stretching before training is not going to have any impact on either of those things. Um, so yeah, like I think probably, well, the majority of people end up injuring themselves by trying to push their progression too fast. Either like I said, building up the intensity too quickly, or building up the volume that they're exposing themselves to too quickly. Like runners, for example, the majority of runners will get injured if they increase their mileage by more than 10% per week consistently.
Mm.
And it won't necessarily happen if you do that on 1 week, but if you're consistently doing that, that's where overuse injuries are likely to come in. So yeah, uh, just don't be a knob with how you're progressing stuff.
Yes. I was wondering whether you were going to use the word knob or dick, and I was like, you went for knob. I like knob. Knob doesn't get used enough. A weird thing to say, but anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, so moving swiftly on once I get the time reset. Okay. Sweating means better results.
Okay.
Busted.
This is a really funny thing to say, isn't it? Because like
Yeah.
there's just such an, like, different people will sweat different amounts doing different activities. Like some people are like really predisposed to sweating. Some people aren't and
Yeah.
will be able to regulate their body temperature. So like sweating literally has like, yeah, it has no impact on how good or bad a session that you might have done is. Um, I think like framing training from that perspective is obviously, it kind of, it's similar to like the no pain, no gain. It's probably come from like the people who are sweating the most, and the people who are working hardest, et cetera, et cetera. But
Yes.
even in that context, it's like understanding what you're actually trying to get out of a session. And if it's a like a strength session or a hypertrophy session, like, yeah, you want to push those sets close to failure, but actually having like a good amount of rest in between is going to be more beneficial for you to get the result that you want to get. So actually, like, probably sweating less in that situation is gonna mean that you're more likely to get better results because you actually rested in between your sets.
Yep.
So it depends very much on what you're trying to get out of a session. And for like, if you're trying to build like a better like aerobic system, for example, depending on what you're trying to get out of that session will also depend on like on it, like how much you sweat and how hard it's been. Like if it's a bit more of a VO2 max session, you know those sets are going to be quite short and intense but quite hard. But it's like sweat doesn't come into it. It's like, can you hold the output that you're trying to hold for the set amount of time? If yes, cool, we're probably getting a good adaptation. Like sweating literally has zero impact on it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, smash it. Yeah. The one thing I would say is if sweat had that much of an impact on results, gyms would be disgustingly hot. Like their AC would never be on. The temperature would be set to the max heat it could possibly be. Everything would just be gross. I mean, it also means that people who train in colder climates aren't going to get better results because they're not, if you train in somewhere like Florida, which is extremely humid, it's very close, it's very sticky, you're going to sweat more, but that doesn't mean that training in Florida is better for you than training in Iceland. Like it's so, I think, yeah, as you said earlier, like I think people have kind of looked at this. It's kind of like the same thing that they said back in the day, or that lifting weights stunts your growth. And that came from literally scientists. It came from just observing who was in the gym at that time. Like I love this story that scientists went, oh, kind of a lot of short kings in here. Yeah, maybe those short kings are there because they feel like they maybe didn't get the height that they wanted. So the only thing they can affect is how big they are. But then scientists, there's a lot of short people in here. Stunting, lifting weights must stunt your growth. Now, the other thing is like, yeah, obviously there's an element to that you should not be lifting huge amount of weights as your bones are fusing. But who on earth is going to put their kid up to test whether that's real? Like, are you going to put either of your boys in to be like, yeah, let's see if lifting weights stunts these kids' growth? I'm going to put them through this scientific experiment. Who on earth would do that? So it is
Yeah.
just people observing something and going, I'm attaching that common observation to this, and there's no real substance to it whatsoever. So yeah, it's bullshit. Okay,
Nice.
on to the next one.
Question number 8. Carbs are bad for weight loss. Please explain.
Okay, so carbs, there's no macronutrient or even food that are innately bad for fat loss. As you said earlier, fat loss comes from being in a calorie deficit. Now, technically, you could eat too much protein and gain weight and or not lose fat. You could eat too much fat and it doesn't matter what the actual macronutrient is. It's literally how much you're consuming of it. The dangers in the dosage with everything. Too much water is bad for you. Carbs have been kind of thrown under the bus a little bit because even what you said earlier about carbohydrates, again, second half of that word, hydrates for every gram of glycogen, which is what carbs get broken down into, you're going to take 3 grams, isn't it? 3 grams of water into the cell. So when people go, I'm cutting out carbs, they see a drop in their weight and they go, it's because I took out the carbs. Yes, technically, yes. But that weight you've lost is just like the water in a sponge. The structure of the sponge hasn't changed. You've just soaked it with water and now it's heavier because there's a bunch of water in it. Carbs are not bad for fat loss. In fact, carbs are probably one of the most important things you can include into your training if you are looking for fat loss, because if you're looking for fat loss, you're in all likelihood trying to improve your composition. Your composition is going to be massively affected by how much muscle tissue you have. And guess what is really important for muscle tissue? Carbohydrates. It's the main source of energy. It's our petrol to our body, or diesel, which is extremely expensive at the moment. Just putting that in there. It's kind of necessary. And I think cutting it out is just making your life way more challenging than it needs to be. So, and one of the things that we're looking at when it comes down to weight loss, I'm going to say fat loss because that's kind of what we're looking for. It needs to be sustainable to a certain degree. And if you're cutting something out entirely, you're immediately making that less sustainable. So yeah, carbs are not innately bad for fat loss in any way, shape, or form. It's just another element of it is they are hyperpalatable. Like it's easier to consume more carbohydrates than it is maybe the other macronutrients, because most people enjoy carbs a lot. How'd I do? Oh, all right, not bad.
Very
44 seconds left. Anything to add to that?
Just yeah, just one thing that obviously we said to drop weight we need to be in a calorie deficit. We've spoken quite a lot about how important protein is. So we're going to always try and have a decent amount of your calories that you're eating from protein. The rest of your calories can be made up from carbs or fats, or like in most likelihood a combination. Like you do need to have some dietary fats, but how you sort of split that out is going to be very dependent on enjoyment and what you like to do.
Mhm.
But also what makes it easier to be in a deficit. And actually, if you look at like the benefits of like being in a deficit but having slightly higher carbs, like you've mentioned, it means that you're going to be probably training better because like carbs are going to really help fuel your training. It also means because carbs are 4 calories per gram, whereas fats are 9 calories per gram, that the foods that you're eating are probably going to be a little bit less calorie dense, which
Mhm.
means that you can probably have a bit more food, like overall food volume, which if you're in a deficit is a good thing, because you want to be able to eat as much as possible to basically maintain satiety and fill yourself up. Whereas if you like drop carbs right down, that means that you're kind of limited to more proteins and fats. And that's fine if you like to do that, but it does probably mean that the amount of food volume that you're eating is going to be less, which when you're already a bit hungry and in a deficit will probably be a little bit harder. So I'm actually I'm more of a fan of keeping carbs higher when in a deficit than keeping fats higher. And obviously that like it's not like completely strict, but and there is fluctuations day to day depending on sort of like what I'm doing. But yeah, I will always kind of favor carbs more than fats when I'm in a deficit. So
Similar
lots
to
of
me.
carbs before marbs.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Okay. Ready? Okay. Oh, wait. Doing you dirty there. I was just starting it before he before you even asked
Oh,
the question.
don't do that.
It's not like I've done this 8 times already.
Yeah.
Okay. You need expensive supplements. Go.
Are you telling me? Why? Do
The
they help my
internet's
hair
telling
grow?
us. The
Um,
internet's telling us that this is what people ask.
um,
Plus, you suit the bald
yeah,
head. That's good. That's
I think
good.
this has massively come from like is a kind of market employed by supplement
Yeah.
companies. Um, if you're looking at the role of supplements, like yes, they do have a role, but as the name suggests, it's like sort of the last sort of 1 to 5% on top of all the other good stuff that you want to be doing, like training consistently and with intention and intent, eating to fuel your goal, whether that's being in a deficit and trying to drop body fat or at maintenance or a surplus, making sure you're doing a good amount of activity on a daily basis, making sure you're getting a good amount of sleep on a daily basis. Like all of those things are going to be drastically more important than any supplement that you can be taking.
Yeah.
So is I think it's like obviously at the moment things like peptides and TRT and those sort of things are like a lot of people are talking about them, and yes, they potentially do have a place, but for a relatively small population of people, and only once you've kind of addressed the other more important things. I think a lot of people use them as a kind of, oh, this like I can spend a load of money on this, it'll fix everything. Whereas
Justifying it.
actually, like you need to do the work and get consistent with the other stuff, and then you probably won't even need those things anyway afterwards. Yeah,
Yep.
they might add a little bit to like the results that you're going to get, but um yeah, focus on training consistently, focus on eating well most of the time, focus on getting a good amount of sleep and doing some activity and being outside. And you like, yeah, supplements may add an extra like 1 to 5% on top of that, but that's it.
That's about it. Smashed it. 51 seconds to go. Yeah. So one of the things I always find this to be a funny story about this, I knew what the word, I had a different context for what the word supplement meant before I knew what supplements in the fitness industry were. I used to work in a corner shop, which was a newsagent's. And when we got the newspapers, we would get the supplements alongside the newspaper to insert into the magazine. No one came just to get the supplements. They bought the paper that then had the supplements in it. So it's something to go alongside of the main component. That is essentially what the word supplement means. The other thing to be aware of is that the supplement industry is worth billions upon billions of pounds per year. They are trying to sell you something. They are trying to sell you the magic formula, the magic bean as such, where, and again, they're capitalizing on the human psychology of humans are innately an energy preservative creature. Like, AKA, we're lazy. If something requires less effort for us, it's immediately more attractive to us. The idea of taking a tablet or, going as far as something that you inject into yourself so that you don't have to do that thing that you really don't want to do. That is very appealing to the very basic nature of our brain and how our brain functions. So that you're falling victim to that. You're smarter than that. Don't let that, don't let yourself be tricked by that. And they've spent hundreds of millions of dollars trying to market that to you. They know exactly the right words to use, and they have spent so much money trying to get you to fall for this trap. Supplements, yeah, as Tom said, they are going to account for such a small aspect of the overall picture. And yes, they are very impactful if you're getting the rest of the picture sorted. But let's face it, most people, including ourselves, we're talking from a coaching perspective. There's so many elements that we could improve upon before I would reach out to a supplement. So yeah, don't fall for it. You're smarter than that. Work hard. There's no supplement in the world that's going to be replaced that can replace hard work, hard, consistent work. Okay.
No pain, no gain.
We should just say that now just to be ironic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Question number
10.
10. Let's go. Yes.
Myth number 10. Muscle turns to fat if you stop training. Elaborate.
Okay. So the idea of one thing turning into another thing is, I understand, first of all, I understand why people think that, but muscle cannot turn into fat. They are two fundamentally different things. Let's take the analogy that we use quite a lot is, the whole what's heavier, a ton of feathers or a ton of bricks? A ton of feathers is going to take up a lot more space. And in this analogy, the feathers are the body fat and the bricks are the muscle. You cannot, unless you're a wizard, turn bricks into feathers. Can you? I wouldn't put it past you, to be fair, Tom. I'm pretty sure you'd be like, oh, I did it one summer once. I just smashed a brick and it turned into a feather. You cannot, biologically, you cannot change one substance into another that are fundamentally different things. But the point that I think a lot of people are making here is that if you don't, well, I'm going to say this if you don't use it, you lose it. That's basically how muscle tissue works. If you're not using that muscle tissue, your muscle tissue goes, hey, we haven't been used in a while. We're going to reduce in our size because it takes energy, not a huge amount, by the way, less than what people think, but it takes energy to maintain and hold on to muscle tissue. Like, for example, my arm does not need to be this size to function just as an arm. My bicep doesn't need to be this size to just do what a bicep is in control of, but I've convinced it by lifting weights and exposing it to that stimulus over and over and over again that it does need to be this size. That's essentially muscle building in a nutshell. If you don't use it, you lose it. Now, in all likelihood, people go, oh, I've turned that into fat. It's not, muscle has not just magically turned into fat. It's just you haven't got that muscle tissue no more because you haven't used it. And then you probably then, in all likelihood, kept the calories that you were eating when you were trying to build that muscle tissue or using it. And that means you're probably just gaining body fat. So it's not one turning into the other. It's just one has kind of replaced the space that the other place used to be. And that's pretty much it. 57 seconds. Anything to add to that, Tom?
Easy. Just to say, no pain, no gain.
No pain, no gain. 100%. 100%. Okay, well, good news is, Tom, neither of us have to do any wall sits. That's always good. Wall sits are static holds of whatever gross thing we had to do. So I am going to,
so they count as pain? I think they count as pain, don't they? Maybe anguish, mental anguish.
Anguish. Yeah. Let's go with that one. Okay, I'm going to try to find a would you rather quickly. Let me see if I can find one. Okay. Would you rather find a rat in your kitchen or a cockroach in your bed? Keep it simple.
A cockroach in my bed.
You'd rather find a cockroach in your bed?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Do you like rats?
I think so. I mean, both would be pretty minging, wouldn't they? But like having a rat in the kitchen means it's probably like found some way to burrow in there. So you've got to go looking for how it got in there. And obviously chance of disease, etc., etc. And yeah, until you get that resolved, you've got to keep just like washing everything. Like I've had mice in my kitchen before, and it's like it's a nightmare because like you don't know where they've been, like what they've been on. So you kind of like have to just keep washing everything just to make sure it's like all the time. Whereas a cockroach in bed, like it'd be pretty me and like waking up and like feeling this little thing like wriggling around, but so it's quite a minor inconvenience, and I don't think they have cockroaches in this country anyway, so I'd definitely choose that.
Would that be the concern, where the cockroach came from? You'd be like, who on earth placed this cockroach in my bed? That's the only thing I could think of, because I was like, yeah, cockroaches don't exist here, so either one's gotten out. Funny story, we when we were growing up, we were looking after a friend's I think they were tarantula. Yeah, we were looking after a friend's tarantula, and then we also then ended up looking after his frogs, like poison frogs. Now you have to feed both of these crickets.
Okay.
Guess what happened to the box of crickets? Broke open.
Oh,
so our house had crickets infesting our house for ages, and those crickets were breeding. So there was a period of time when I was a kid that you'd just be sitting at night and you could hear the crickets like creaking in the walls and stuff. So yeah, if you've got any of those animals, keep those crickets locked down, because it is disgusting when you're walking around, you see a cricket just hopping across the floor. But yeah,
Yeah.
that was a little.
It's not what you want, is it?
No, I was thinking, I was going to go towards rat because I think rats are actually quite cute. I think I do like rats, but yeah, in my head I was thinking a pet rat. I would just like try and
Mm.
make it my pet, but then I'm also thinking, yeah, you're right in terms of how did it get there. More going to come. Yeah, I'll go with cockroach as well. Excellent. Right. Firstly, everyone who listened, we really, really do appreciate all the support. If you gotten to this point in the podcast, don't stop listening yet. Please share this. Please subscribe, like, comment, all those things. We really, really do appreciate it. And Tom, do you want to say goodbye to everybody?
See you next time, guys.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.